It's the cord. I'll have to buy one.
Does bicord work?
I'm not sure. I can test it.
They're both C's?
Although it is at 14%, which gives about 20 minutes.
Okay, see, this is the one that's the normal cord. The other one is a micro. This is 2 C's, and this one's a C micro cord. So if you need a micro cord, I have a C and a micro cord.
I'll try this one, see if it works better than the other one. It should. Or it might, I don't know. I do have to buy another one tomorrow when I get paid, I hope. All right, it's charging. And then state police.
Okay, hand me your cord, your old cord.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I want to see what it does on mine.
It might be a situation with my phone just being old.
Yeah, but that's what I'm going to look at.
Yes, ma'am.
Because if it is, you can get all the cords you want. If the thing's old, it's not going to make a difference. So why waste the money if it's not going to work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
One of the things about autism is that if I start talking and they start talking over me, we may go off on a tangent about something that's...
Oh, this isn't mine. I didn't put the micro on. Because I didn't realize it grabbed my new phone. I hate my new phone. It's tinier than this is. Okay, so now this one fits this one.
If I fit it into the TCL charger, it'll charge faster, but it does the whole, you know, the yellow thing where it tells you you're having problems with the connection cord.
Oh. See now, come on, open. There we go. Okay, let's go to systems. I know battery's 100%, but that's not what I want to know. Oh, so it's not going to tell me.
In nearly every one of these situations, people weren't willing to write down anything or sign their name to anything or do anything that the cops didn't
And
say.
that's why I told her that when I talked to you on the phone, you wasn't recording, and you asked me if I would record. And this is your cord. And my phones are charged, so it's not going to tell me nothing if it's your phone or not. Because mine would have to be low to tell me if it's going to charge. It just tells me 100%, so.
This one's definitely useful. Same one I got here. I do have the other type for this phone.
The micro?
But that's the one that I have plugged into this.
Yeah, so my new phone is a micro, and this one's just a regular.
The thing is that if they don't send someone out to actually sit with me and assist me with it, I literally can't do it. And the people that were supposed to do that with me at the very beginning, it would only taken an hour of their time. Now the problems that we're having is like with Tillamook Family Counseling Center and TCCHC, which is the community one that's got like 4 buildings around here. They didn't want to do their jobs as mandated reporters. Danelle Boggs, instead of assisting me with turning in the issues, she referred me to TFCC, even knowing that I was trying to turn in TFCC because they'd already threatened, harassed, and intimidated me once before for trying to go in. But she sent me there for a caseworker to help me to do this stuff. Well, when I got there, they didn't set me up with a caseworker. They set me up for just vanilla therapy.
Okay, so what's your phone doing now?
It's,
Can you make a call?
It's recording now.
Okay.
And let's see if this one is working. All right, it popped up. Good. And them sending me to a bunch of drug addicts was definitely not a good idea.
Yeah, that's just stupid.
They did it at the hospital, several of the hospital workers too. All right, let's call them.
I think that to work with people, they should have to take drug tests. Just to.
There is one other number that we can call as far as adult protective services go. We won't be able to call them today though.
Okay.
You're not available till next Tuesday.
Tomorrow,
right?
I can do it after I get off.
Okay, that'll work.
And I get off tomorrow See what I work from 10 to, oh, yeah, at 1. I get off at 1 tomorrow. I was gonna get off at 2 today because I was gonna be an hour late, but then by the time the bus came, I was gonna be an hour and a half, 2 hours late.
Well, the fact that you made the observations you did shows me you're definitely at least as intelligent as I thought you were.
Yeah.
But, one of the things, like when she was talking to you yesterday, I was like, that lady needed to not be talking to her. She needed to be talking to me. The reason that she was talking to you like that is because she's hoping that you'll do the job that they're supposed to do. She's hoping that you'll help to be my parent or guardian kind of thing, or the surrogate for the time being. And what we really need to do is get them to do their jobs because you can't.
Right.
No disrespect.
It's not my place, it's theirs.
Exactly.
The Oregon State Police. If this is an actual emergency, please hang up and dial 911.
I think we'd already.
Otherwise, leave a message and we will return your call within a short period of time. We do realize your call is very important. Thank you.
That is how they all work, though.
Hello, my name is Sean Schwartz, and I'm here with a lady named Susan. We were trying to call to turn in some abuse, and this is the number that we were sent to call. It's abuse by police here in Tillamook, and as well as others here in Tillamook. Susan has been a witness to a couple of the situations, but there's also hundreds more that I've recorded. She's also listened to some of the evidence with some of the other victims, as well as the stuff from my mental health workers. And we're making the calls to all the places we're supposed to. As an at-risk and disabled adult, when I'm abused, I'm supposed to turn it in right away. But I did try to turn it in right away, and I'm still trying to turn it in. And the crimes have just been compounded because my predators know I'm trying to turn them in, and they're retaliating. That includes the Sheriff's Department here in Tillamook, as well as the Police Department here in Tillamook. My phone number is... Here, one moment. Let me mute the microphone. Do you have my number on your phone?
I have all of them.
All right.
As soon as I get the right phone. Let me give it to them.
This is not the 566 one.
Well, I have all 3 on them.
That wasn't the best message I could have sent him, but
Actually, you were nice and calm, and you spoke very clearly, and so they have no preconception that there's any mental illness.
although the number for that's for the state office. They'll send the local office, and the local office works in conjunction with all of
Okay,
these
and I need my
agencies.
cord back.
Well, that's not gonna happen. I'll throw a tantrum and flop like a fish. A lot of people are mad at me because I do throw tantrums, but they're not tantrums, it's meltdowns from abuse.
Yeah.
And when I try to explain situations that people don't understand, a lot of people can't handle the word ignorant. How dare you call me ignorant? I didn't call you stupid. If somebody's telling me about what it's like to have a yeast infection as a guy and it's a female, and if she's wrong, I don't mind telling her she's wrong. Also, if somebody is telling
How
me
would you
about
know
something,
what it's like to have one as a guy? If you're a girl, you just don't. Unless you were a guy and now you're a girl, but
they wouldn't let me have that surgery. You mean lop them off of me and then add a dick to me?
yeah. I was going, huh? And then it dawned on me what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, the lady that I learned that from, she's not a pure lesbian, she's just a man-hater. But she has
I'm
the
sure
best,
lesbians a man hater.
she has the best jokes, like some of the worst jokes I have ever told in the history of my life.
And this is yours. And I'll leave that number with you.
Oh, that's mine, isn't it?
Yes, that one's yours. I don't want you to think it was mine to have none.
Yes, ma'am. They will probably call me at an odd hour when I'm not likely to have anyone there. Another thing is, a lot of this
They,
information.
they
if
probably
set
won't
up
call
an
you until
appointment-
tomorrow anyway. Yes.
If they set up an appointment, it's important to have my computer in front of me and to let them know that I have to have that, because I can't possibly remember all the names
Right.
and numbers. It's not that I'm crazy,
Right.
it's, there's literally thousands of people involved in this.
Well, yes, and they need to actually talk to you and see what's going on and then come
Look
or,
at
or
it,
put
yeah.
you up somewhere there so they can see and go through it.
They almost did that in Nebraska, but Scott DaCosta was able to use
Yeah.
sheriff's departments in 3 counties. A place called Kaplan Community Action Partnership for Western Nebraska hooked me up. But they hooked me up with a room for 7 days. The sheriff made sure that I was arrested my second day there so that I couldn't turn him in. Same thing that I'm
They
worried about
give you
here.
room so they know where to lead you.
Well, yeah, pretty much. I was glad the Kaplan helped though, and the fact is that right there made it so that I literally couldn't turn in my predators. The police guaranteed that the sexual predators, the people who sexually assaulted me, got away. The people who sexually assaulted others got away.
Yeah.
The people who physically assaulted me got away.
Yeah, it's just crazy. But that is what the world is. If you're not a predator, what are you doing? You need to get out there, you're gonna do it anyway.
You need to do it yourself, or when that becomes predatory, it makes it not okay.
You just do what we do. That's why he was trying to see if you'd go along with it. This guy can be really religion.
Yeah. Now that situation, the lady we spoke with yesterday, like most people don't understand that the difference between when they tell the story later on or the situation that actually happened.
Right.
Like your observations are the same observations I made, but also with the places that they sent us to, like you said, we already knew. All right.
Again.
I think I'm gonna go downstairs and have an anxiety attack. Thank you, Susan.
Sorry.
All right, I'm not trying to be rude to you people, but thank you guys for not sucking. I mean, every time I come in here, you're pleasant. You also, a lot of people are really mean. Also, I'm gonna learn your names, just not today.
Oh, you didn't quite make it there.
Now, there's a few people here in town who chose to be predatory because they're afraid,
Yeah,
but fully believe that if something gets started, that they'll step forward.
that's good. If they realize that they're not going to be the only one that steps forward, and other people are believing what's going on, maybe they will.
Recording many of their stories is part of what helps that to
Yeah.
happen too.
Well, yeah, because if you don't tell your story to somebody that believes you, you're never going to say it.
Now, there's a lot of people, like, for example, if it's a friend or family member, like, for somebody who's a complete stranger, it makes sense for them wanting to see every detail and make sure they don't get ass raped in the process of trying to help somebody out. But the thing is, if it's a friend or family member who knows you and you go to them and you say, hey, I was just assaulted, and they know you, that obviously they can turn it in right away. They don't have to go through all that. They're going to believe you.
Well,
I've
yeah,
got
but the
so many
person, even
people-
if they don't know you, should go with you to turn it in.
Right.
And then they can just say, this, I believe, this is what he's told me, and I believe this has happened. Or, you need to investigate no matter if he's lying or not.
Yeah, when you're called mentally ill, that's the thing, is that I tried to turn in crimes.
Yeah.
Officers decided they didn't want to do their jobs, and they thought if they called me mentally ill, it makes it so they don't have to. According to what it says in the courts and on paper, they committed felonies.
Right? But see, most people don't know that, and they wouldn't even do that. But that's why it's so strange that they keep doing it to you when you know.
Yep.
So it just keeps compounding.
It's because they know I'm alone. It's kind of like that judge signing that piece of paper, first day, no evidence.
She even said, wow. I said, look at that. The judge signed it the same day.
Now, how many women
there's
of you
nothing
know had to walk into a courtroom with 2 black eyes and still couldn't get that?
Yep. Yeah, the judge wouldn't sign it. Denise has gone through 15 of them, and he won't sign them. He throws
Jesus.
them out when he goes to court because he contests them. Now, if he didn't contest it, she did it.
Well, they prevented me from going to court, so I couldn't contest mine prior to this. And that's the thing here, is that I fully expect the cops to arrest me on something between now and the 12th.
The way I think of it, if the person comes to court, yes, she's healed because it's been a month or 2 later, but on her phone had her pictures and it was dated. And she even showed that he was there. And on some of them, probably, I would have made sure that I got their knuckles, and I would have waited until they passed out.
Yep.
They would have just said, oh, I'll hit somebody else, I didn't hit her. Just using it.
Now, that's the thing about a small town, is that it becomes blackballing and it comes down to popularity.
Yep.
There's one guy in town, I guess he's got some real severe mental problems and he doesn't come out much, but he's friends with half the police, so basically they're able to keep his crimes
They
under
get all the
wraps.
information about everybody.
Yep.
That's why they're friends with them.
Child molesters is their primary, they do that nationwide. It's a good tactic, it works.
Yeah, and then they get the people all around them, and then they get swapped up in it too. So it's not like, well, I didn't know. Whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, they did that ordinance. 150 people, 300 by the time they got done. They got arrested. I don't know how it turned out. Because they took them to jail. But yeah, there was a sex trafficking.
Well, that's one of the things I've been trying to turn in since before I came here, is the sex trafficking here. I do know people who are involved in it. The problem is nobody will help me with the stuff. Grants Pass is over 4.5 hours away, so for me to go there and do anything about that situation,
Right?
how would I get there?
Yeah.
It's not that I don't care about them kids, I certainly do.
Out on the road, you're getting towed, you're out of everything.
And that's another thing. I try to tell people that that's my anxiety. They're like, oh, it's no big thing. You just don't think negative stuff. I'm like, be prepared, not don't think negative. If you're not prepared to change your tire.
Bring your own reality. No, because everybody needs their own reality, and that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And that is what they're teaching.
Kind of like people saying your truth. Like, no, if somebody punched me in the face and it's on video, I was punched in the face.
But you can't say that and be in trouble because it is their reality. Their higher power. No, it's water. It's not. You take a little of this Bible, this little book, and that's what we have. That's one way. And I don't want to use that. And people don't understand that they can. But they try to push it on you. But I don't talk to them. I just just looking at me smiling, and I just.
I'm not going to push my Jesus on you because you don't push your Jesus on me.
Or your spirituality.
You know what? You need to just give it to the universe and let me point my finger at you while I say it.
What they tell me, I turned you over to the universe. Oh, I said, oh, thank you. My God, this is why I turned it over. But you know what? I'm glad your universe is on it.
I'm sending happy vibes your way.
Yes. My happy thoughts are coming your way. I say that a lot of comments on YouTube, or not YouTube, but on Facebook.
That one, or when you see a pretty meme, and you know that meme might be true in some cases, it's a good saying, but then you get 400 people typing amen, and you realize that one of your friends is one of the people typing amen, and that bullshit is exactly what they just typed to you 10 minutes ago.
Yes. That
Be safe, Susan. So one of the things Susan kept doing yesterday, because, wow, this shit is pretty fucking serious, is raised eyebrow. And also, when the lady kept on talking to me, Susan kept looking up at me like, are you going to say something? Well, I did say something. But also because we were in a basement, my internet wasn't working too good. We didn't get much of that recorded. The places that they sent us to did the same things I said they would. Why are these places sending us to places that don't do that job? It makes 0 sense. Sour Patch Kids. Do I hate those racist kids? No. Do I hate racism? Yes. So far, I've turned in over a dozen attempts to get in protection orders. Hopefully I'll find a cigarette. Another sheriff arrested. Good news. Now, obviously, I do have the option of shooting people. Obviously, other than the time that I've been locked up, I have had access to firearms nearly the entire time. Let me explain to you something about firearms access for somebody who doesn't see it as a novelty or a toy. You know that guy that was out in the country? His parents got a .22 long rifle sitting right behind the front door. Maybe it's 22, maybe it's a 30-aught. Hell, might even be a Winchester or a Mossberg. Now, of course, those people have access to that firearm. Everybody in that household has access to that firearm. Now, do those people go grabbing that firearm every time there's an argument, a dispute, or a scuffle? No. That's why Tom and Tina in Chapel, Nebraska still have a .22 long rifle sitting behind their door collecting dust. The last person, so far as they're aware, to touch it is me. And why did I touch it? Because it was dusty. I was like, hey, there's dust all over this. That's not a toy. That's not a toy. I know, I was just saying it's dusty. So that's one of the things we have to deal with, is when people see something dangerous as a novelty. When people want to talk about using that gun to go shooting a bunch of people, and they have access to the gun, but no education on how to use it, they're not seeing it as a toy, they're seeing it as a novelty that can fix all of their problems right now. dead bodies don't solve your problems. How many of my problems were solved by Natalie Bollinger's corpse? Not a single one of them. Oh, nice. Very loosely rolled, but it's tobacco. I'll take it. Woohoo, go Broncos. Obviously, I don't get paid until late tonight. The situation with Susan, she's trying to do a bit more, but the thing is that it's the matter of it shouldn't be Susan's job. Goddamn tweakers.
Right.
Bonjour. Now, obviously, my battery's running low on the phone real quick. I'm sure many of y'all who watched that video last night, you got to hear them youngins cursing at me and calling me the N-word. Some of y'all, you don't believe that stuff happened to a white guy. Well, I got a big mouth. Of course it does. Do you know why it happens? Because I have a big mouth. A lot of them youngins are angry at me, and I do have to worry about retaliation from them, retaliation from their parents, retaliation from the police, and of course, as always, I have to worry about the standard retaliation from the child molesters I turn in. I take Mason people very seriously. My little sister disappeared in 2012, and we were able to find her safe, but that was one of the scariest situations in my life. Now, ever since then, I've been helping to find missing people. 11 years I've been finding missing people. Now, Susan, she made a call with me today to make sure that something was done. And yesterday, she went in with me to make sure that something was done. Because that stalker, you know, for him following me here from Hood River, that's a scary situation. I just realized I was in people's personal hearing range. Now, as far as the youngins go, obviously I'm not out to hurt them. If I wanted to hurt them, it would have been done already. Obviously, even with all the racism coming out of their faces, I still think of them as human beings because I still try to keep them safe. Even though I hear that N-word out of their face. Whenever I hear those girls screaming, well, like an idiot, I look. But then again, why wouldn't I? You have any idea how many of my friends have ended up dead? You have any idea how many times that it's not what you think it is? It's not just somebody crying wolf. It's not just somebody playing around. When Natalie Bollinger disappeared, yeah, I knew to be afraid. I knew to be afraid for myself and for my loved my friends and family, because I'd been taking that abuse for over a year before she was killed. When it comes to pedophiles and rapists, this is all of our problem. And like Susan was saying earlier, when you let them get away with it, they get a big head, and they do it again and again, and they'll do it to others. And the more you allow them to get away with it, the more free they feel about doing such things. Officer Waylon Lolatai, after assaulting me and getting a lot of public support for assaulting me, he assaulted 6 other people on camera in 2018. The corruption in America isn't just the police, but it starts with the police. The police get to decide whether or not they like you, and if they're going to investigate, it depends on whether or not they like you. If they don't like you, they'll send you around in circles. As far as the places that were supposed to help me to put a stop to this, the places that are supposed to protect at-risk adults, they don't. Whoa. Thickener, incendiary oil M2, 100 pounds net. Oh, wow. That give me bad ideas. No, Sean, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Okay, I won't. Paraffin wax and honey work pretty good for some sticky. Hey. There's somebody pulling over and saying, "Hi, Sean." I don't know who it was, but probably one of them youngins from the parking lot. Now, like I said, not all of them are racist. Not all of them are jerks. Just the ones that aren't still want to be liked. They don't want to have issues with their classmates, especially not the popular ones. I mean, really, it's cowardice, but you can come up with anything, can't you? Any excuse. That's another thing that Susan was talking about earlier, is that, you know, every crime that I tried to tell them about, they wanted to talk over me about. Susan was wanting to know if I paid enough attention to see how many times she raised her eyebrow, because apparently she raised her eyebrow every time that lady did that. It's one thing to hear somebody talk about it. It's another thing to see it and hear it in action. Now, the place that the victims advocacy place sent us to, we called them yesterday, and they gave us a number for another place. That's right, the Northwest Senior and Disability Center gave us the number for a place, and we called that place. We were given the number for Adult Protective Services, which resulted in us having to talk to Northwest Senior and Disability Services, who had already told us that that's not their job. And then today, Susan was pretty agitated. She was like, well, you know, she asked who it was that they were supposed to investigate, or who it is that's supposed to investigate. And the lady in the background said, well, we're supposed to investigate it. And then she lied to you anyway. I was like, yep. Yep. And if you weren't there, then I wouldn't have a witness to it. So I'm glad she was there. I'm glad she witnessed it. And I apparently misplaced. There it is. We don't want the battery to die, do we? Anyway, I don't want Susan to be messed with. She did voice today that she's aware that that's a possibility. Jackson Eggert typed, that was me who said hi. Hey, Jackson. I was informed of a little bit of the hate last night, as well as recording quite a bit of it. I think it should be pretty obvious to everybody down there that I'm not out to hurt anybody. And I think it should be pretty obvious to everybody down there that if somebody does try to hurt you, that I'm going to make a big fucking stink and a big fucking noise. However, if you don't believe me, go to my channel, type up the words Jamie again. Keep in mind the dude in that video is way taller than me, and Jamie is way shorter than me. When that girl they call Tuna down there is getting messed with, I noticed that she takes it pretty decent. She takes it in stride like you would expect a boy to do. However, all that fucking squealing from the girls down there freaks me out. I grew up in places where people do bad shit, and a squeal like that usually means somebody's getting raped or killed. When I told them youngins, when there was the first initial issues with 3 of those youngins, that was really all there was as far as the ones who were wanting to be antagonistic assholes. And that was over the day that Christian was threatening to kill him. And I explained to Christian, it's even on video where I was explaining to him, hey, Christian, you know what? I don't want to have to deal with the abuse. All right. You're literally threatening to kill children, and you're right next to my vehicle screaming that stuff at him. And he screamed at me, he doesn't care. So that's kind of how the night went. But that was like 7 or 8 months ago. Now, before I ever went and talked to those kids, if it hadn't been for the threats, harassment, and intimidation that first night with Christian, well, I never would have talked to any of them. I never would have gotten out and walked over and tried to explain to them what was going on and that the intimidation and the threats just ain't cool. Now, last night there was a lot of screaming. You could hear it in that video that I was making at the time. It's at 46 minutes and 34 seconds, I think it is. That I'm walking by and I'm saying, well, at least tonight it's not a bunch of yelling and I don't have to hear any of the screaming. And then the next thing I hear is 3 very shrill voices all screaming the N-word. I'm offended by the N-word, but I'm not hurting people over it. I do know people that would literally shoot those youngins in that parking lot for using those words. I also stay away from people like that. Like I said, I hate racist hate groups like BLM. A lot of these youngins here, they were raised with racism, and that's what they have. For some of them, it's just a joke. But it's not a joke to those who have had to actually experience it. As far as turning in crimes committed by those youngins, there's no reason to. None of the shit that they're doing down there is fucking felonious. They do leave garbage every day. And that could get some of them arrested and given some pretty expensive fines, but it's all fucking misdemeanors. Which is a lot different from what the cops are doing. The cops are committing felonies. That's why there's conflict of interest. For any of these agencies that have sent me around in circles, for me to be sent back to them is actually against the law. Did you know that? They're not allowed to force me to work with any of these people that I tried to turn in until an investigation has been, well, they never did an investigation, did they? Of course not. Are those youngins in the parking lot likely to be assholes tonight? That depends on how early I show up. Are they likely to share them curse words again? Some of them, yeah, very likely. Now, how likely is it that I'm gonna get in my vehicle and run people over? That's not a possibility. Well, I suppose in some people's minds it is. You tell people I'm schizophrenic and they might believe I'm capable of just about anything. Them youngins last night were angry. And you get to hear the horrible things that they wanted to say to me because they were angry. But you know what? If that old guy, James Murphy, license plate number HD 44648, shows up there creeping on them kids, whether them kids are mad at me or not, I'm gonna say something. Protection order or not, I'll walk right through that motherfucker. I don't give a shit. While you guys care about getting in trouble, I don't give a fuck about getting in trouble. I've been to prison for protecting children. Remember that. Write that down. That's something you're going to want to remember if you're going to step into the ring. I've been to prison for protecting children. Am I afraid of prison? Oh, hell yes. Am I afraid to go back? Not compared with what happens to a child if I say nothing. I'm willing to spend the rest of my life in prison to protect children. Especially the children of those who are trying to help me or claimed it. But if you're going to claim that the reason you didn't keep your word to help me is because people were threatening to kill your kids, it's hard to believe that if you don't come forward about it to the police. It's hard to believe you and the police are allowed to say whatever they want and you make zero effort to contest it. As far as those youngins saying hello, I'm fine with it. As far as that N-word goes, I'm not fine with that. And I'm going to speak up every single time I hear it. Not out of hatred, not out of disrespect, but out of complete and total respect for the individuals in my life who have saved my life despite the fact that I'm a fucking whitey. If them youngins was a bit older, I'd tell them about some of them situations. There's some situations about Tim at CSTC. And there's a lot of horror stories about Tim that I've spoken about. But Tim, by the time I left there, protected me. He even ran scrimmage for me when there was a fight that was going to happen. He used to run that scrimmage for 5 or 6 black kids that would beat me up at once. This racist bullshit isn't just taught to white kids. It's also taught to black kids. Black kids are taught to hate you. They're taught that you're out to get them. You're out to steal from them. You're out to shoot them. Black kids are taught to be afraid of you the same way you're taught to be afraid of black kids. Many of y'all in this town are aware of the heroin problem. You're aware of the blues. You know what the blues are. The thing is, I'm not out to screw anybody over. I'm out to stop the abuse. I'm out to stop the violence. I'm out to stop the child molesters and the rapists. I'm down to 6% battery, so as much as I like you, I gotta leave you. Between now and the 12th, I worry about retaliation by my predators, especially retaliation by police. Repeatedly, police have done everything that they can to send me around in circles rather than help me. The sheer quantity of evidence against my predators is overwhelming. One lady had a panic attack, sat in the corner and cried for almost 45 minutes after looking at what I'm going through. She promised she was going to help me. That was in Nebraska. Seeing her in the corner huddled up, fucking crying to herself. You think that made me feel good? Susan said another thing today, which I've said many times. It's not her job. It's not her responsibility, but when it comes to abuse against us, it is all of our responsibility. At the same time, what I needed her help with, I need her help with getting it started so these people will actually do their jobs. And having her as a witness to the situation both yesterday and today and what those people said to us, it's getting the runaround. Now, a lot of people got the runaround, and they wanted to tell me that we were going to get the runaround. Well, most of those people, they don't know how to speak up or when. Although, somehow, magically, they all know what to do if it's a woman. If a woman ends that she is a victim, you all know how to turn it in, don't you? Just when it's a man, you don't care. And if a woman chooses a disabled man to pick on, well, she's picked herself an easy target. And you all know it. This isn't the first time that somebody's had to deal with this. Y'all should look up the name Rosewood. You'll get to learn a little bit about our history. Then look up the Second Battle of Wounded Knee. The Second Battle of Wounded Knee is the one that we all know about. The one where, in the 1970s, AIM decided that they were going to fight back against the corruption on the reservations. The FBI stepped in, and the guy who was having people killed got to be the mayor again. Anyway, since I didn't see who it was, I just saw the vehicle and heard the "Hi, Sean." I'm glad that Jackson Eggert got a hold of me and typed up that it was him. That way I'm not wondering, like, who the fuck is screaming at me? Yelling, I should say yelling. He wasn't screaming. There was no angry voice to it. It was just a hello. And it was because I was across the street. If I'd have been right next to his window, he wouldn't have had to say it so loud. No, I'm not making excuses for a predator. I'm telling you about the situation and the reality of it. Reality of it, I was at least 35 to 40 feet away from the guy. So he's not going to be using his indoor voice. Now, one of the things that Susan was pointing out is that when that lady kept on talking over me and changing the subject, she made a mention that basically is something that I say often too, but she said it differently. But basically, they were going at it like a crackhead with a rock, you know? You put a crack rock inside of a puzzle box, that crackhead will figure out how to open it up even if it takes a hammer. That lady last night, or yesterday, was raising eyebrows almost the whole conversation. Because when I'd tell her that I'd already been somewhere and that they told me something different than what she's telling us, and then we called them, and that place said exactly the same things that they had told me many times before. Not their job, not their job. Northwest Senior and Disability Services. So then we get the number for Adult Protective Services, and it's Northwest Senior and Disability Services. It's not their job. But it is their job. They're not going to do their job. That's what it comes down to. They don't want to, and any excuse will work. I already knew we were going to get sent down the rabbit hole, because I've already been through it. On the bright side, Susan is going through the rabbit hole with me. So there's a witness. There's actually a lot of witnesses. Steve Tombleson of Colorado. Mateo Talbot of North Carolina. Even my own Aunt Mary. She's a key witness. She knows a lot of details about the situation with my father and his prison. What did my dad go to prison for? 38 counts of cocaine possession with intent to sell. He was sentenced to a 12-year mandatory minimum, and he was out in 5. I found out later on, after Natalie was killed, that my dad didn't just get busted with 38 counts of cocaine possession with intent to sell. He also sold an illegal AR-15 to an undercover. And here's me. I was blackmailed into making an illegal AR-15. And I've been trying to turn it in since before I started building the goddamn thing. Phone call after phone call recording. Fact is, I can't go through all this evidence. I'm constantly running around like a chicken with my head cut off, wasting the resources that I need to survive to run around to a bunch of places that won't do their jobs. The people at Northwest Senior and Disability Services, seriously, yesterday, said that it wasn't their job to do any of the things that the DA said that it was their job to do. Then today they played head games with me and Susan about, well, turns out, as you can hear from the person in the background, it is their job to investigate it. And still, she wanted to send me on to the state police. It's also a conflict of interest for them to investigate it, which I explained to the DA. They're fleecing the American public for tax dollars. All of these services are. Like Susan was explaining, they just want to run people off. If you're homeless, they just want to run you off. Your rights don't matter. You as a person don't matter. They just want to run you off. Now, this is one of the things about Susan getting to see these things and experience them with me, is that when somebody does that, it's no longer in the realm of fantasy. It's, holy shit, this is really happening. Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper. And no victim left behind. I should also say you're your sister's keeper. I know I'm certainly protective of mine.